Peace from the Tanya 23 experience. This Sunday, we're back with Melanin Dialogue. And we have part 2 of our mental health podcast. Also giving prudence to Women's Month, I believe. Yes, it's Women's Month also. So last week we dealt with mental illness just, for our men. And this weekend, we're going to do mental illness in the community, period. And thank you to my guests. We have Queen Goddess. I can't see the rest.
Hope.
Queen Goddess Hope. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we have Sister Yvette, Mama Earth. And we have 2 very strong, powerful women to have this discussion tonight. And my platform appreciates your presence. So we're going to start off because we know that this subject is so convoluted. And if there was one thing that could bring about a cure, I'm sure that we would be implementing it. So this is about our community. We all can agree that just when we go outside, everywhere we go, we can see mentally challenged in our community, different ages, whatever have you. And we want to find out, for the Black community, is mental illness mainly a product of systematic racism? I actually put a lot of thought into it, and I had more yeses than nos. And I am interested in you ladies' opinions on that. So we'll start with Queen Goddess Hope.
I would say yes, of course. I think when it comes to systematic racism, for my family coming in from the Caribbean, then into Queens, New York, and they were some of the first people to receive housing vouchers to move into the projects on Staten Island. My grandmother and her sister primarily, and some of my family still live in those same buildings, those concrete buildings, so unfortunately those buildings, when I go to visit, they're dark and they bring back memories that are pretty traumatic, to be honest. And there's probably about 70 to, I want to say probably 80 to 90%, actually 70 is pretty generous, of the Black community on Staten Island living in those buildings. And there are multiple housings units all over the island, and Staten Island is only 12 miles long. So to think about that, and there are probably like 9 or 10 public housing units there, and to say like 80 to 90% of our community are living in those units, some of them on public assistance, some of them have to actually pay. A lot of times they're, dark brown or dark in color. So we also know that comes with its own energy within itself. I think it's meant to be that way, which I believe also causes a lot of the violence that happens within those spaces, and why there are so many community servants who are actually trying to dismantle a lot of the racism that happens within the community amongst each other. There's an increase in drug abuse, there's an increase of death, there's an increase of homicides, and amongst our people, strictly because we really have only one another to turn to for mental health issues. A lot of people in our community go undiagnosed because they believe that going to therapy is a stigma. It's talked about as if it's negative to actually want to be healed, or you go into therapy is a laughing stock. And for me personally, I was exposed to some trauma in those same public housing units when I was 5 years old. And it's put me in a space of almost short-term memory loss for at least like 10 years almost, where I was not really vocal about anything. I completely forgot about what happened, and then I shut down as a kid. I was completely shy, never really wanted to talk to anyone, my parents for that matter. We made really low minimum wage, so a lot of my parents' time was spent working or,
Mhm.
going to school to try to better themselves. So I spent a lot of time in after school programs. I was a latchkey kid. So I feel like that also plays a part in systematic racism. No one's there with the kids who are home because their moms or your dads are out working all day long. So my parents, I want to say, probably moved us out of the hood when I was about 10 years old. And we
Mhm.
didn't move completely out, we just moved a couple of blocks away, but no longer in public housing. So we're still going to the same schools, we're still around the same kids, we're still around the same, environment realistically. And again, that still has something to do and play on your psyche even as a child, because now kids are teasing you for the clothes that you're wearing, the types of foods that you're eating. I remember bringing a lunchbox and being tormented for having a lunchbox. That also came with its own sense of mental illness. And why did I feel like I had to be so unique for having a lunchbox, but now I can't even bring it into the schools, because I'm going to be picked on habitually. Because inside my lunchbox is peanut butter and jelly and not a turkey and cheese sandwich. You know,
Mhm.
it's like regardless of what happens at any age, we can all feel the issues of racism, of mental illnesses within the community. Like you said, seeing people run around on drugs, having episodes, mental health episodes on any block, on any street, in the buildings, screaming, violence. These things are all real. These things were a part of my reality from birth until 10 years old. So I carried
Mhm.
a lot of that weight on me. I didn't start going to therapy until I was about 26 years old. And when I did start going to therapy, that was for like premarital counseling, and they were like, you need to do your own services. And I was like, okay, fine. But it was never really, let's dive deep into this. It was more or less focused on a marriage. And then when I
Mhm.
turned 33, I started going seriously because I felt like I couldn't heal myself any longer through journaling. Journaling was a great answer for me. It allowed me to release a lot
Mhm.
of things that were pent up. But when you have somebody who's taking time to ask you questions about your childhood, what was your parents' childhood like? What is your earliest memory of shame or heartbreak and, trauma, so on and so forth, you really start to realize that these things are not normal. And I think that we've normalized them for
Mhm.
decades, centuries even, and that's really what we have to
Mhm.
combat, the idea that these things are not normal and our upbringing is not normal. This was all built by design to keep a people who they know are powerful down. Black
Mhm.
people, brown people have continuously overcome tons and tons and tons of things that have been thrown at us, and we continue to rise up, and they continue to create laws and change laws and add new bills and things to continue to keep us down, because now my favorite saying is like, they know who we are, but we just have to awaken to who we truly are.
Mhm.
And the more we learn about what they are doing and what they have done, that's the only way that you can truly awaken to who you are within, because we sit with our ancestors' pain, we sit with their knowledge, we sit with their wisdom. And the more I research into my family's lineage,
Mhm.
the more powerful I become, because now my dreams are exposing more things to me. It's kind of like
Mhm.
what we were saying in the pre-show, like they're revealing so many things to us right now. The veil is so thin.
Mhm.
So while,
Yeah.
yes, we have been tormented with mental health and systematic racism, it's also a powerful time to awaken and link up with our brothers and sisters to learn that we are not alone. And it's okay to see a mental health therapist for however many times you need to go. Because when I first started, I was going 3 times a week, and I was like, damn, I must be batshit crazy to be in here 3 times a week. But
A lot of people a lot of people don't know that when you start on any job, or they give you this little card or whatever, if you have full time and maybe some part time, but they usually give everybody the what is it, EEAP or EAP number you can call. I've tried it and it actually worked. I got a couple free sessions, and then I started having to pay for sessions, but I took advantage of it, and that's one resource. But Mama Earth,
And listening to you both, I totally
yeah.
agree. In order to find the source of pain, we have to go to the core, the beginning. Slavery did
Mhm,
a bad job. And I was looking at my son and I was talking about the Willie Lynch speech. And I told him, I
mhm,
said, it was profound because he said that he could control the slaves for this many years, for 400 years. We have to go back to the very core of any sorrow, any pain, any trauma. We have to go to the
mhm,
very beginning. So
yeah.
during slavery and during the the um the transfer from Africa to the United States, what they endured, we possibly could not have imagined. And
Mhm,
then as they get off of a ship and to go to somewhere they have no idea where they are, that's more
mhm,
trauma. Then to be placed in a shed or a barn with animal excrement everywhere or whatever, that's more trauma. Then to be
yes.
beaten or to have yourself torn away from your family members, to be you watching your mother ride off in a cart with some strangers and you're in a strange place, that's more trauma. All that
Mm,
trauma affected our DNA.
mhm, yep.
What,
Hearing
what
the
is
rapes
what
and
is
going through
yes,
the
what is
rapes and whatnot.
necessary? What is necessary? If they're going to give us anything, I agree with you with the reparations. It's more than money. Matter of fact, forget the
Mhm.
money. Forget the money. Give us a
We
mental
should have
health.
a comprehensive list by now. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
mental
us that's
health.
going to create it.
Property, land. They have a vast amount of land. There's nowhere in the world that all the land is taken over in this world. There's land available for each and every one of us. Those types
Services,
of things.
free college, free
Absolutely. Free
education
college.
because they denied us
Absolutely.
education.
Absolutely. But the main source is to heal the DNA. We need to be
Now,
able to,
what could we get them to contribute in that area?
well, as
Free
far as
counseling, healing.
healing the DNA,
Mhm,
if the DNA, the only way the DNA, they call it with the curse of the bloodline or bloodline curse. Certain things happen in
mhm,
family, like their family that's been going on for years because that's their bloodline curse.
mhm,
Target that issue, whether it's molestation, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's drug
mhm,
abuse, start with those things, healing those type of areas involved in their lives in order
mhm.
for them to completely be able to elevate. First, you got to take care of the problem.
That's right.
You have to take care of the problem. So definitely, the Black community has been impacted with mental illness
Living
since
disparity also.
yes, since the beginning. Since the
Teach
beginning.
people how to live. A lot of people don't know how to live. Even if you go in the projects, there's piss, there's poop, there's everything everywhere. And that's all they have. And if that's how they treat it, to me, that's mental illness. You know what I'm
I've
saying?
I've taken in some families who lived just like that. You know, when they came into my home, they came into a clean home, a nice home, and they lived as if they were living in a barn somewhere, because
Yeah,
they weren't taught a constructive way of living. You know,
using
so
toilet
them,
paper and whatnot. Yeah, the things we take for granted, like a lot of
mhm.
people, our people don't have. You know what I'm
But this
saying?
family never slept in a bed. They always slept in the floor and they covered up with clothes.
Wow.
The
Wow.
children were used to covering up with coats and sweaters, not a bed with a pillow.
Mhm. Wow.
Yeah, so the
And you know,
children were
there's
used to,
even more severe cases out there.
oh, it's much more severe cases out
Hmm.
there where the children don't know. You know, my next door neighbors, my children was on the porch reading. My daughter was reading an atlas, and my son was reading. I think he was reading the World Book Encyclopedia or something. He was reading, and the children next door asked them what were they doing, and my children said that we're reading our books so we can take it back to the library. Well, these children never heard of a library. They never been to a library. So I started taking them to the library and showing them, you know, to get books or how to get books. I even helped them get a library card. And I took them
Right.
on a hike, as I took my children on a hike. These children had no clue how to behave out there. They were throwing rocks at each other and, you know, just doing things, and because they never knew what it's like to be outside of that neighborhood. So we have
Right.
to start at the
I have
beginning
things to
with
play with,
people.
you know.
You know what? I was
So we
thinking
need
about
more
Mama
like
Earth too.
teenagers that's a little bit older. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking, me being a latchkey
There's a
kid.
little lag, so go ahead.
Okay, being a latchkey kid and being in these public schools back in the 90s, we had a lot of grant money at that time being poured into the school, so we were able to go on class trips and able to see different things and
Yeah,
have these types of experiences. So I went to public school in New York City, and
camps.
some 20 students, I was included in our 5th grade class, but we went to Vermont and worked on a farm. And I think about it now, like, damn, they really had us reenacting slavery low key. But it was like every day every day we were working in a different activity. One
Mhm.
person would clean the dorms, another person would go milk the goats and the cows, another person would collect the chicken eggs, another person would do like the
Yeah.
maple syrup, because they were like a popular maple syrup brand on the shelf. So they would have people
Mhm.
going and working. So when I thought about that, I'm like, okay, I get it. But just being on the road with 20 of my peers, at that time, seeing things outside of our community really encouraged me to want to
Mhm.
see more. We don't have that type of
Yeah.
thing in a lot of schools nowadays, let alone going to
Mhm.
like a Sesame Place or Six Flags. Like we were in that kind of arena where we would go to those. I don't think they have after school programs like they used to back in the day. We probably had like four or
Mm-mm. They
500
don't.
kids there, at a time from 3 to 6 o'clock, helping kids with homework, teaching them life skills, because that's really what it
Mhm.
was, just being able to
That
pour
too.
into young lives.
A lot of
I
the
think
churches
that's
aren't
what
doing that
throughout
either.
the yeah, we had
Mhm.
that at churches too. So I think
Yeah.
it really starts small, because I think we were saying that at the event where I met you ladies at, that we
Mhm.
really need to start with the youth, because if that is genuinely our future, and if just hearing what Mama Earth is saying about how kids don't even have like the basic social skills or life skills, how could they
Life
really adapt
skills.
to the real world? How could you
Mhm.
keep a job? I wanted to get a job at 14. I wish I would have never had, because I've been working ever since. but
Or
but
get
just
along with other
about
kids
that.
in the school, you know what I'm
That's what I
saying? They
mean.
probably had
Yeah.
issues in the schools with other kids, you know what I'm saying?
Heck
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
some of the older kids, when they get like 16, 17, 18, maybe we could start because I was mature at 16. I actually had my own crib at 16. My parents was going through their divorce situation back and forth. I said, listen, I got things to do in life. Y'all are disturbing me. I need my own crib. I went out, got a job, saved my money, and got my own crib and I've been on my own ever since. And nobody came to my house. I didn't have no whole bunch of people in there. You know how you 16, you got all groups of friends, and they knew. No, my house was a home. It's like I knew what I wanted at a young age. And so there are a lot of me's out there. When you get to talking to young ladies and young men, they don't sound like we think they are, you know, all trap music out, you know, all trapped out with the music, you know, because if they live their life the way the music is, they're not doing too good. But when you get to talking to them, you know, they're making a lot of sense, and you find out they do have some sense. And it's like, okay, so y'all need to be an example to the younger ones, because they're getting all the money in the schools still from the federal government, but all the programs aren't there anymore.
So
You
what are they
find
doing
out
with the money?
in Baltimore, they got a serious problem with the school system of passing kids that's not coming and doing all of this corruption, and teachers are getting paid that wasn't at the school for 2 years and whatnot. Like, it's just a mess. And so I guess they're in the process of trying to sift through it. But until then, we, the people, as usual, we have to pay for everything, and we got to put in the work. So I've been looking for young Black kids when I see them in my neighborhood. You know, I'll strike a conversation with them, and in the summertime, you know, things like that. But that's to the extent. I tried to get in through the school and offer my meditation program for the youth, and that was just one school, and then COVID hit. So, but I need to like distribute it throughout schools and see what happens. And then like we have healers, myself, Mama Earth, and she has a few others that are healers. You know, we can begin to get with the people that we don't know. You know what I'm saying? And there's different events and things like that too.
I think it's really the most important thing is creating a safe space, because we don't know what, you know, kids go home to. I think just thinking about my childhood, like it was a hot mess. You know, I had a separate two-parent home. One home had one parent, and then another house had a full-fledged family, father, mother, kids. But the one with the most family had probably the most arguments and fighting. You know, my stepmother was bipolar, to speak about mental illness, but she didn't get diagnosed until my dad, you know, filed for divorce, because she did whatever she had to try to do to maintain her marriage. And unfortunately, it just was so bad after 15, 17 years. Now my brothers and my brother and my sister, that I see the same things in them. You know, our relationships don't thrive because I recognize that. And I have recognized, I want to say like maybe 3 years ago, I recognized that when people raise their voice at me, I kind of go into like a fight or flight response. Right. And
Me
then I was
too.
like, why does this keep happening? And then it wasn't until someone like was attempting to raise their hand at me. And I was like, if you hit me, I'm probably going to kill you. So you might want to like, and I said, and I think in the tone that I said it was probably more striking to them, you know, like, oh, she might actually do it. And I was like, you know, where did that come from? You know, I've never felt like that before. So I started doing my own research and realized, like, damn, this lady, my dad's ex-wife, really did a number on me. And I was only the weekend kid. Do you know what I mean? So just that little bit of exposure over years affected me. And then it was one time that I lived with them for a year, my mom being a nurse, you know, my whole life. She was a travel nurse, and just 1 year I was like, I don't want to live here. I've been in more fist fights in Florida than I have in New York City. Make it make sense. So I moved back to New York City with my dad, and I lived with them for 1 year. And the stuff that I was witnessed and exposed to just from my dad's wife, my dad's at work. He has no idea that this is happening. You know, it was just like tumultuous for me. So now I'm
Yeah.
recognizing where this fight or flight response is coming from. And it was coming from that, because whenever there was chaos, I would shut down and go in my room. So we don't know what kids are dealing with, you know, and I think it's important to provide them a safe space, because I needed a safe space and didn't have that.
Right. Yeah. Brother Raheem, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
It's Sunday evening,
I
so
don't
I'm
know.
cleaning my little buildings out here. How y'all doing? Peace and blessings first and foremost.
Peace, peace.
Good.
It's, it's a
I
great
didn't know
dialogue.
you on the road or.
Nah, give me 1 second. Let me flip my phone. How y'all doing?
Oh, okay.
Peace and blessings,
Peace. How you
positive.
doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
I
How
don't
y'all
know if
doing?
you got a chance to hear us, the discussion. If you heard us, you can weigh in.
Yes, ma'am.
We got.
Go
Mhm.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. Oh, um, I heard it for the past 10 minutes. Basically, childhood trauma is definitely tough. And peace to the sister who from New York. And growing up in different step families, like it could be tough because step parents don't take care of, let's say, the children who was already there. Sometimes, like I don't even like saying step parents. Like me, I've been in relationships where I was a step parent, but I'd rather be like, yo, I'm your child's old head, or you know what I mean, closest friend. Because I like when a person step into a relationship with anybody, if that person has children, you got to be able to take in that whole family. And not a lot of brothers and sisters are doing that. There's sisters who be like, I don't want a man with kids, or there's brothers who be like, I don't want a man with, a woman with kids, and then they treat the children horribly. So the broken home starts is definitely traumatic. It's definitely traumatic, and so like I said, we don't have programs back in the neighborhoods no more. Like we don't have no programs, and I realize just having these dialogues with y'all that mental health within our community is vital, and so we definitely need to focus on programs that attack mental health for the man, woman, and child, because there's still grown men and women that's still dealing with trauma, and there's children that's coming out of trauma, and I would suggest that when you see children, when you see the youth throughout the day, just say hello to them. You know what I mean? Like, see a young man who look like he's going through some things, just say hello. A simple hello to a young black man is powerful. A simple hello to a young black sister is powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
we just gotta get back to the where we was tight with our community, where our elders was looking out for the community. Everybody was tight within the community because nobody cares no more. No more. People be getting beat up. There's black on black violence. Children beating each other up, and all they doing is holding up the phones, recording it. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? And so we got to bring it into that type of destruction. But that's my
Mm-hmm.
own.
Yes, thank you, Mama Earth.
Well, being raised in the inner city, I had, and I'm looking at, I make a comparison of when I grew up to now, and I see a great difference. It was back then you had that core family. You had those families. My family is from the West Indies too. So my family is from Jamaica. So they pretty much had on the weekends we would be over each other's houses. And then as time grew, and those we call them glue to the family, as they transitioned, the children didn't take it on. They didn't keep it going. I tried to keep it going, but they just fall. It just fall off. I'll end up being the only one cooking, and I did it for a while. And another cousin, she did it for a little while until she became exhausted. I didn't want her to. I was not going to get exhausted. The whole key was to teach the younger family members how to keep the family going.
Mhm.
That's not happening anymore.
Mhm.
You don't have that family dynamic anymore. And all of that is strategic. All of that is to pull people apart so that we can be picked off one by one. It's much harder
Mm-hmm.
if you got that family dynamic and you have that bond with each other. It's harder to pull you apart than each
Yeah.
one kind of separates,
Yeah.
and they separate and they become like fingers. They're no longer connected. They're in that
Mm-hmm.
space, in those spaces, drugs come in, drug addiction comes in, um, meeting some guy that you thought that was the all be all, and the family members never took time out to question him or talk to him, or so give him the do's and the don'ts. He
Right.
comes in and
Mm-hmm.
he abuses her, and she becomes more standoffish, and she start having babies, and she teaches her babies, everything that happens in a home stays in a home. It is strategical for the families to pull apart. So as today, in days time, we
Hmm.
got a lot of work to do, because now we have to put back the family. We have to bring back the family dynamic. We have to bring back the concern and the love in families, because
Yes.
it's not there anymore.
True.
It's not there
Mhm.
anymore. I have friends who their children don't speak to them.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
have family members who children don't speak to them or have that family time with them. And they don't
Mm-hmm.
see that this is on purpose. It's on purpose for families to pull apart.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even for the parents to have to work 2 and 3 jobs and whatnot.
Absolutely.
When they own a home and say they are medium income, 40,000, 45,000 a year. Sometimes they're working 2 and 3 jobs just to bring that in. You know what I'm saying? And it's tough. I came from a family where my father worked full time. He was a New York City maintenance transit person, that electronic technician, a
Mhm.
maintainer, that's what it was. Right. So at that time they called to him a maintainer, but he worked down in the subway and keeping the trains and stuff lined up, all the electrical systems and whatnot. And I remember him taking me to work with him, maybe 7 or 8 years old. And I'm just sitting there watching him do everything. And one time he got caught in between the trains or whatever, and it was like a bad situation. And they called my mom and was like, she better come down just in case he doesn't make it and all this other stuff. And I was like, what? But a lot of the jobs, you're risking your life, a little bit of money. You got construction, those people up on scalpels. You got, just all these different jobs and whatnot, things that we have to do just to survive. And you feel like we're at the bottom of the pay scale. So we have a certain, just because of racism, period. It is
Right.
systematic. And it's time that this country makes, some do.
And do you remember
It's
in the
old,
1970s? Do you remember in
Mm-hmm.
the in the 70s, when if you needed assistance, if a woman needed assistance, there couldn't be a man in the home.
Right.
They
Yes.
removed they removed the man. That's why I say it's
It's intentional.
systematic, and
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
it's purposeful to separate the families, because the father could not be in the home.
It's
And
still like
so
that.
Right.
yeah, it
Yeah.
well,
For
with
Section 8 and all of that.
Yeah,
with
it's still like
with
that.
Section 8, you have to include, if you do have a man in the home, all incomes have to be included, and that will
Yes.
be the decision whether or not you are um
Eligible.
eligible for the
Section 8
system.
period. Yeah.
Yeah,
And every
yeah,
time he gets a change in income, you got to report it. And they know that, they're sticklers for people that they know is a family or whatever. Your house
Yeah.
got to pass an inspection, and they do everything
yeah.
to the
'Cause
letter.
the social worker used to come into the homes, and the social worker would be able to look in closets and things to look for any items that the man had in there.
Yeah.
My next door neighbor, her husband, he hid behind our oil tank.
Wow. We want to put
He
him
hid,
on mute if possible.
yeah, they had him. He had to hide behind the oil tank
He is on
until
mute.
she left. Once she leaves, then he went back inside of the house.
I
So,
remember that because
hmm
I remember having like to hide stuff. Like I remember this.
hmm
TVs and whatnot. They didn't want you to have too much electronics.
Yeah, like I remember.
And
You're giving me memories right now.
remember on the sheet, they would ask you, do you own a TV? How much clothes? All this different, a checklist of all this stuff or whatever. And that's what they be coming to look in your house for.
Well,
Money, you're not supposed to have nothing.
So that's obviously intentional. 100%. They wanted
yeah.
to keep you down. They didn't want to see you prospering. I think I said this on Vocal Dialect recently too, because we kind of did a conversation similar to this, and I was like, it's intentional where they don't want us as a community to have at least 5 generations. And I think right now we're getting ready to go on to the 5th. We're currently like in the 4th. So the children that were born around, 2020 were considered like the 4th generation at that time period. And we just have one last generation to correct it, if you will, to kind of reinforce that family dynamic again. Otherwise, you can just forget about it. I hate to admit it, but that's really where this is headed, because it's like when I see our current teenagers, I'm like, this is so appalling. Like, I would never be able to do half of the stuff that they do right now. Like, never. Especially, coming in a Caribbean home, that shit is out.
Yeah. And a lot of them do come from good homes. They be playing a role while they out. Like all these 11 years olds that's jacking people cars and whatnot. They know they're not going to get in trouble. They go right on home or get let out after it's done. So
I really think it's a crime to have kids with cell phones. Like, I genuinely. My sister is now 31. She had her first cell phone at 9 years old because we lived on Staten Island and you had to take a ferry to get to Manhattan Island. And that was where my parents worked at that time, my dad and his wife, and my mom worked in Queens. So I have one parent 2 hours away and the other 2 parents at least 2 hours away on a commute. And so they gave my sister a cell phone because if something happened, somebody had to reach them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So she's had a cell phone since 9 years old. And to think I was 19 when I had my first cell phone. And I was like, I don't want a car. I don't want a cell phone. I don't like people keeping tabs on me and tracking, because my parents were so strict. They're both Caribbean. Like, I don't want no problems. The only time I want to be tracked is if I can track myself, So I abided by all the laws and rules in my house. Like, I did not want to go outside. I didn't want to hear nobody's mouth. When you grow up in a Caribbean household, that's all you hear all day anyway. I don't want to give you another reason to harass me. Like, I just don't, So I'm in the house all day.
All for the better. You turned out well.
I'll be in here till 23. That is fine. I got time. Like, now you can't even keep me in the house. I just came back from Dubai like 4 days ago and I'm already planning another trip. So it's like, when I think about that, it's just insane to me, because I'm like, I hear a lot of my peers, saying like, I'm almost 40 and I don't want to bring children into this world, because they see the age of how youth are growing up, or they just see how tumultuous society is as a whole. Let's take out systematic racism. It's now no longer a color thing, because when COVID hit, it no longer was about color. It was about everybody. You know what I mean? And I think that is the agenda now. You are not exempt. Your race is not exempt. If you make below this much money, that's it.
When we were in 2020, when it first hit, we weren't going through this migrant situation at the same time. That's when they had I think it
wasn't publicized.
It wasn't as severe, but it was there.
Yeah, because they had the children coming off the
I'm thinking it had to be because really bad for them. If it was as bad as they were reporting it was, it had to be a lot on the immigrant side. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That were getting contaminated.
They had children wrapped up in aluminum foil in warehouses out there on the borderline of Texas and Mexico, as far as the migrant situation.
Yeah, because Trump was trying to stop it. Trump was trying to stop them from. That's where the whole build a wall came from. Like, it was happening, but so much light was being shed on COVID as opposed to, immigration. But like I said, if Trump comes back in, not to like go into politics too much, but if this comes back in, you better believe all of that stuff is going out the window.
Yeah, it has to stop, because they're letting anybody.
Oh yeah.
I remember the movie Scarface when they was in Cuba saying libertad, and they was letting in all the criminals and everything. That's what it reminds me.
That's what's happening.
And that's exactly what's happening. That's fact. They are bringing a lot of gang members who You can see it on their faces. They got the tats on their faces. They more gamed out than brothers and sisters that's in America. And that's why us brothers and sisters definitely have to tighten up and unite, especially our youth, just due to the fact because there's organizations, they're organized. Those Hispanics, those Latinos, they coming across America, the ones who want to do right by America and get away from their third world countries where they're getting slaughtered. And it's true, they're getting slaughtered. So I don't blame them for wanting to be free. But they come in America with their same personalities, and that's not cool. But there are migrants that's out here opening up businesses. They opening up stores. They opening up I see one with a cell phone shack. And I'm like, yo, that's what we need to do before we don't have any options. You know what I'm saying? Before we just continue to picking cotton, because that's what majority of the Black America is still doing. We're still picking cotton. And we just getting a labor fee.
In different ways, yeah.
They coming over here, they establishing their own construction companies. You know what I'm saying? And I don't get envious when I see that. I just sit back and analyze, like, how can I do it on my own? But I try to encourage other people to do this as well.
You gotta have your brothers come together. That's how. And you know,
And
that's
not
the
for
thing.
nothing, they
They
have to get
already
more
got unity.
educated. They have to get more
Yeah,
educated.
they
I hate to
already have
admit it.
unity. They get the money and the little bit of know-how. They go back and they save the group. You know what I'm saying? They train each other and whatnot, show each other how to do stuff. They don't have no formal training doing any of these jobs that they're doing over here. They're being trained by someone that knows how to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like one thing you don't see them in the fields that you got to have certificates and stuff to, you know, you got to actually go through the schooling. It takes them a while to like get there, but like the restaurant jobs and the medial jobs that they can do, you know, they're being trained to do that, you know.
I think we definitely need to push a little bit harder though on this migrant crisis, only because like I just saw this past week in California, they're trying to pass a new bill or a law where
We got
they
to
can
mute you,
actually
Raheem. It's a little feedback. I'm sorry.
Okay, my bad.
Can you mute your mic? Thank you. Okay.
they're trying to pass a bill in California where the migrants can purchase property and they won't have to pay a mortgage until they sell or refinance, which is completely
What? No,
outrageous. So this is a
no.
form of
What?
systematic racism. California is doing
That's
a
to
lot
get them to
of
vote because I'm pretty sure they're going to
absolutely.
get voting rights
You
really
already know.
soon, and we
You
need
need
to
an
shut that
address.
down.
You need an address
Yes,
and a job. They know what they
that's
doing.
all for them to sway their vote a certain way.
Yep, I agree 100% with that. But my point
Mm,
in saying this about them, so now they have jobs, they have homes,
mm,
their children
mm,
are having schools, and now they're actually going to be able to own
mhm.
property. So I want to say about 5 years ago, Hispanics had about 43% of the population, and they were like, it's going to increase even more. And I didn't understand how or why that was going to happen, but now we see how it's going to continue to increase. But what I feel like we need to push against is that if they're getting state jobs and if they're going to be able to be homeowners, that is not right. That is not right for our community at all, you know, because
No,
at the
that's
end
going
of
to
the
make
day,
me really angry mentally
if they
because
bring
I
it
have
over
been
here,
striving for years for them to get that approved, and it's crazy. I feel like there's so much systematic racism in that credit industry.
oh, but you got to remember. So this is what I really wanted to talk about when I thought about systematic racism, right? We hear the term
Mhm.
about redlining often, right? But people don't realize that Martin Luther King, before we went into this whole, you know, us wanting to be equal and integrate, it really, really started with the housing system. He intentionally wanted Black home ownership to thrive, do you know?
Mhm.
And then he was murdered shortly after that. So his daughter started this program where she's pushing back against the credit system because they only implemented the credit system in the 70s. They didn't have it
Mhm.
before. So Black home ownership could have been thriving, but they knew that we didn't have the know-how or the education on finances. So they created a system that would work against us, which is now, you know, the three
The
credit
credit
bureaus,
system.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're doing this whole thing all over again. Now you have redlining on top of that, where you can't technically buy in this area that's considered green because this is where all the white people live. You know, you're going to drive down the cost of the market. You're going to push down, you know, equity values and so
Property
on and so
value. That's
forth.
crazy.
Exactly. So that's why they want you to buy in your hood. You know, that's why they don't want you to go too far outside of that. So here we are with this migrant crisis and they're about to give them these properties. You're like, how can you do something like that?
Now, I think that that right there is a separate podcast, if you don't mind, because we got to make some noise with that. That
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
is
that'd be a good
crazy. Like, we got to
podcast right
figure
there.
out how we can stop that. I mean,
Yeah,
it has to go through legislature, and that's the
of
thing. A
course.
lot of things that they pushed through were supposed to be voted on. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's like every day you wake up, it's a new law. It's a new law. And they're not putting it up to vote. They're just implementing laws like crazy. Like I never seen nothing like that. All of those laws are supposed to go through stages. You know what I'm saying? And this
Mhm.
administration is just here you go. And that's crazy. So there's got to be a way to stop that. You know,
I don't know, because you know the agenda is to make it hurry up before
I am
November.
totally against that as a taxpayer and a citizen and whatever. And I think that they can discriminate and find out that you're black with the social security number somehow. It's coded a certain way, and it was like back when TikTok, maybe it was 2021 or something, I saw the actual breakdown of how they can determine what nationality is applying for that credit, because it's faceless, and it's all about that social security number, and there's some kind of coding where they can tell that your not your identity, but your color. You know what I'm saying? That's supposed to be non-discriminative, but there's something in that social security number, the way it's coded.
It reminds me of business tax, like business applications, like when people apply for business credit, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people use their personal home address to start their business, and a lot of
Right.
people use their cell phone number. So if you're going to apply for a business loan, you can have great personal credit, but if they run your credit and they see that your personal address or a home residential address is the address on file, they're going to decline that. So what I
Mm-hmm.
had to do was do something called like a physical address or a virtual address or a ghost address. So you
Yeah.
basically pay for these services, you know, annually or monthly, however you want to do it. They give you like a faux address. So my
Mm-hmm.
company had a Wall Street address. I didn't care. And then I
Mm-hmm.
had an 800 number through a place called like Call Hippo. And I would basically apply for credit through that. And do you know I would always get approved because of that one simple switch?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So
Because of the address and whatever, because they can pretty much see the area, there's a lot of ways to discriminate when you put it in your residential address. Yeah. Same for me. I'm actually going through that process now, getting a ghost address or whatever. I actually want an actual office address, but if that doesn't work out, soon I'm going to use
yeah,
that and do the 800 number thing also.
it really
Mhm.
Yeah, I
works.
actually was working with that for a while, the business credit system. And I'm glad I never got anything, because they were trying to give me a PP loan or whatever. And I was like, something said nah, because I know they're not giving it to you, you have to pay it back. So I'm not with that.
We're
And they
paying
had
for it
you,
right
you had
now
some
with
serious
inflation.
stipulations to not pay it back. You had to send them how much you spent, to the letter. And I'm like, never mind. I would rather just build my business from the ground, and when I really need something, then go for it then. But yeah. I feel like okay, so I have one last question. Um we talked about that practical steps that we can do and share in our communities to foster mental wellness and dismantle systematic barriers. Well, that's a lot, and we know we can't do that alone. So I would say it start in your home. It starts in your home. your immediate family, even your work relationships. A lot of times you meet people that pour out their situations to you on the job. Like every job I was like a counselor. I would always just attract people that, and some of them became friends and whatnot, but it was mainly just to have a ear to talk to that's, I forget the word that you would use, but it's, someone that doesn't have a direct interest, and people seem to like to confide in that, but it's a lot systematically. And in New York, I was almost overwhelmed as I took a walk. I said, I'm going to go walk the streets. So I'm walking the streets in New York. It's beautiful weather out. It's just one of them days, but it was just different. It was like this cloud, like this darkness or whatever. But it was like a good 80% of the people's eyes that, because I was paying attention to the people. I'd literally just like stand in front of a spot or whatever and just observe. And so many people have mental illness. You could see it. Like, and of course there's new cases every day, but then there's the people are just, our people have a depression, and it's got to be dealt with.
Undiagnosed.
Yeah, that too. That too. A lot, and it's manifesting as incidents, incidents and happenings and whatnot. Parents that have children together that can't get along long enough to, plan stuff for the child, and a lot. The children are affected, they show it when they go to the schools. So in school, go ahead.
Once we give people, I'll say we give ourselves permission to heal. When we give ourselves permission to heal, when we give ourselves restore our voice, because a lot of life circumstances takes our voice away, or is kept hush hush, or is kept hidden. Don't discuss that because people want to think you're crazy. Once we remove the stigma of something's wrong with you if you are, if you're sad, instead of being able to speak and say the reason why, we have to, as I said before, we have to go to the core of the pain, and people need to have permission to give themselves permission to heal. And being that healer and doing the Reiki, it puts me in a position to tune into that person. And a lot of times I'm fed, or I'm to tell them what's going on in their lives, and then they feel comfortable with just relaxing, and they really are amazed because I'm giving this information on what's going on with them. And a lot of times it's come from feelings that they've suppressed for so long. Once we give people the freedom to show their emotions and not tease them about it or ridicule them about it, just give them that that sacred space to be able to peel off the layers. A lot of the mental illnesses would not exist. A lot of it comes from suppressing your emotions. Suppressing how you feel for so long, and being not able to show how you feel for so long, too. You become manic. You become you lose grip of reality sometimes when you're not able to say what's going on in here, and most of all in here. Once we give people that sacred space to say, I'm hurting. And I was talking, we were on a conference last night on the telephone, and I was saying that a lot of things happening in the community now, people are waking up. Do you see that a lot of people are waking up? They're taking care of themselves more. They're eating better. They're
Mhm.
putting away meat and they're changing their diets, and they're
Yeah.
seeking that homeostasis in their lives now. I see that happening more, and that's
Detoxing.
why. Yeah, they detoxifying themselves, grounding themselves.
Mhm.
I heard a young lady saying, "I just take the time out and I'm grounding myself." I was like, "What you know about that?" So people are waking up. Yeah, they're waking up.
Yeah.
They ask me,
Yeah.
they'll see my stones or my crystals around my neck, and they'll say, "My daughter has that crystal." So people are waking up,
Yeah.
and for they call us the woke ones. I don't like that woke
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now,
I don't like the woke or conscious community. It's too much with
yeah.
that.
Yes.
We got to call ourselves the healers or whatever.
Yes.
The
I'm called all
grinders.
types of things. I'm called healer. I'm called seer. I'm called oracle,
Yes.
mambo. I'm called
Oracle,
all these different titles.
tarot.
And I'm cool with that because
Yeah.
I'm meeting them where they are. I'm
Mama
fine with
T.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me
I'm
too.
okay with that.
For sure.
Yeah. But it
Yeah.
takes us, those ones who do have the knowledge of knowing that yourself, to take it
Yeah.
out there and introduce it to those. And I call it planting seeds in
Yeah.
fertile ground. You're planting those seeds, and not
Hmm.
every seed is going to grow. But you don't just plant that seed and you keep on watering that seed and it never grows. You move on to the one where the seed is going to grow. Because once it
Hmm.
grows, that seed that grows into that flower will start dropping seeds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what we have to do, because mental illness is very, very prominent in the African American or the Black community.
American community. Yes.
I think,
And
like you all said,
mhm. Go ahead.
about starting in with the home, because when you were making your statement just now, I immediately thought of us telling our young boys that they can't cry or to be vocal with their feelings, the concept of polarities, men should be like this, women should be like this. And even as young kids, we're not allowed to cry for so long. Stop that crying. It's always like you can't even express your emotions, whether if you're crying or if you have something to say, you really are always told to be silent. And I think it's really important, like we said, to create that safe space in our homes. I'm telling you, my
Yeah.
life would be so much different if I was able to express that. I did a
Mhm.
post on social media yesterday saying that, the 5 love languages test by Gary Chapman, you know, basically tells you your love language and how you desire to be loved. But in reality, those things are what you didn't receive as a child. So if you lacked words of, if your love language now is words of affirmation, someone didn't sow those into you as a child. If you want quality time in your life now as an adult, you didn't receive that as a child. So it's like when I think about all of these things, I'm like, dang, this is all really factual when you really break it down. Everything really genuinely stems from your childhood. So if you're not receiving something at that young age, which I call the imprinting years, from like 3 to 7, more or less 10, you really are now creating these adult monsters because,
Mhm.
like Raheem said, like there are a lot of people who are still unhealed well into their 30, 40, 50s, and now where they're creating children who are also just walking
Oh
reflections
man.
of that.
Yeah. Yep. It's like children having children. My grandchildren actually, their parents aren't that old. Like, well, my son now is just 33, but his son is 12, which is not, it's not too bad. And really, I think that's a perfect age because you don't want to be like too old or whatever. And then when they say like young women, they grow up with their children, that's not always a bad thing. A lot of times they have raised some, decent children. A lot of the basketball players come from single moms, football players and whatnot. It's not that they can't do a good job. They took the time to do a good job, and then they have to recognize things like sometimes if your children are off or they going through a bunch of peer pressure, they going through something. As a parent, we have our lives going on, but you got to be able to look at your kids and say, what's going on? Like me, I would say when I first come in from work, sometimes I'd be so damn mad about that job. I say, okay, babies, Y'all give me 15 minutes of cool down time. Then I'm going to come to you with, how was your day? You know, where's your homework? How was school? You know, was there any happenings? I would have that time. Now, I had 3 children. I would have it with them together. And then I would find my way to have time with them individually. You know, because they might want to tell me something about the other one, but don't want to say it while the other one is there. You know what I'm saying? So as a parent, you got to know how to maneuver. You got to take, like, if you had a street life or whatever, you got to take that and incorporate it into, you know, your everyday life. So my kids knew they couldn't get away with nothing, but I had my first one at 19, you know, and then within 2 years, we found out that he had a hemophilia, and hemophilia is a pretty serious thing, you know. So as a young woman, I had to raise a child that had the special needs. So I didn't have time to be running the streets and this and that. But as fortune would have it, I was able to quickly latch on to what I needed for my son because it was life-saving. So as a mother, that's what we want to do, keep our children saved. So I had to learn, you know, what to do. And then from there, I had to create a home for him that was conducive for him and conducive for me. And then I had to control who came in my home, because now I have a child, you know, and we live a certain way. And so I had to stick to that. And I will physically fight you also. You're going to be out of my house with your craziness. And literally, I became like the family icon or whatever, because at the time I had parents that drank. And you know, when you drink, you silly and do craziness. But I was like the one that kept everybody, you know, in place with boundaries and whatnot. And so I got pegged as the black sheep and, you know, the mean one and but they knew they couldn't come to my house with certain stuff, you know, and they knew when they came that they had to respect, you know, and in turn, being that way, people would come to me, you know, whether the family members, friends of family members or whatever, you know, when they came to me, I got the real deal because they didn't give me the bullshit, you know. And then again, you got to be real with people and real with your family members. If you out there, you know, your little cousin out there jacking mofos and doing craziness, check that. A lot of times we say it's okay because that's my cousin or this, that, and you know, they live in foul or whatever. No, you can't do that. You know, grandma's a church person or whatever. She's holier than thou. She comes home, makes Sunday dinner, but all 7-headed kids she got is out there doing up to no good. You never seen them in the church, but grandma is not making a stickler to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, maybe she is, but maybe it's too kind. You know, sometimes we think that we could be so kind to people, and we have to have boundaries, and we gotta just like stick to it and know when each other is off, you know. Mm-hmm. In our everyday life that we could utilize. You know what I'm saying? I guess being that type of person is hard. It's not easy because now you need your own form of counseling or Reiki, or, you know, I make sure that I'm an avid meditator. You know, I'm into the crystal therapy. I'm into Reiki, self Reiki, and different things like that, because I said, hey, these fools ain't going to kill me. I got to find some way, because I was always tense, uptight, cuss your ass out. It wasn't that much leeway with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to digress myself too, because I was a very uptight, but for a good reason. When they said, I have a tarot card and Medusa says sacred rage. And I said, sacred rage. And I read it. And I said, wow, okay, that's me. Because I have good intentions, but I just can't allow the craziness, you know? So you get, you get labeled sometimes. But when you know what's right, and it's another thing, you know what's right for yourself, and then you could know what's right for others. It is like, oh, you know what's right for you. You don't know what's right for me. No, I can know what's right for me and you. You know what I'm saying? If we got that link together, then it is what it is. And all I can do is say it. You have your own life or whatever, but you're not coming in my boundaries with your craziness. Sometimes we have to do that, you know, to get our families in order. We have large families, and then our children have children fast, and then they grow, you know what I'm saying? And then before you know it, shit is out of order. Like I literally seen that in families, you know, they too busy multiplying, but they ain't nobody learning much. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And after a while, you can have about 20 or 30 derelicts real quick. Everybody a derelict. You know what I'm saying? Like I literally seen families like that. Yeah.
It's a lot of healing that has to go on families. I grew up alone. It was just me and my mother. And my mom was she was the type of person that you could go to if you needed anything. And I thought that's how you were supposed to be. I thought that, and by me being the only child, I did things to have friends. I was always heavy. I was overweight, and I had a West Indian mom, and it's children in the neighborhood. They called my mom little crazy names, the African booty scratcher types, things like that, right? So they would say dumb stuff like that, and so that made me kind of ashamed of my lineage because of the way that the neighborhood children received us. So it made me quiet. It made me actually a neighborhood doormat, because I didn't have any siblings, and my mom was older. My mom had me when she was 38.
Okay.
So, and I'm being the only child, and my mom doted over me because I was the child that she was able to have after having multiple miscarriages. And I was the child that she was finally able to have. So I looked out life, what they call out of rose-colored glasses. I didn't know that people were the way that they were. So it made me overly
protected.
giving.
You were. She overly protected you, being that you were her miracle child.
Yeah, I was very overly protected. I couldn't even step out of the neighborhood until I was 16. I actually had a chauffeur. I had my cousins, my older cousins. I don't know if he was a boyfriend, husband. I don't know. He lived there, and he would take me to school every day. And I was being teased about that I wasn't able to go to school like
on
the other
bus
children,
and all that.
walk to school or catch the bus. I didn't catch the bus until I was 21.
Wow.
I was afraid
the
to
city
catch
bus,
the bus.
right? Yeah, the school
city
bus. City bus, yeah.
Yeah, city bus.
I did my children the same way. I sure did.
Yeah, I didn't catch
my children the same way.
So and so we can give so much until we actually delay the maturity and the growth of our children. So I didn't really get out there until, as I said, I was a mom by the time I was 18 years old. So either I walked or I caught a ride. I didn't catch the bus until I was 21. I felt uncomfortable catching the bus. No. The subway, you can forget it. No, I was not. I was not.
Right. Oh, me neither. Oh my gosh. I
remember
my first city bus trip.
It causes
by myself.
It causes you to become an introvert.
Yeah.
And not able to socialize. So I didn't really get out there in the community until later in my life. And I started thinking that everyone was good. There was no bad intention until hurt and despair and disappointment started hitting me right and left. So a lot of that happened because my mom grew up in a home with several siblings. My mother had 13 siblings, and she was the baby. She was the youngest. So she was catered to a lot. So she thought that, catering to me and not teaching me those life skills. I didn't learn how to cook until I was to my mom transition. My mom transitioned when I was 17. So I was out in this world by myself, not knowing anything, not having those necessary life skills. I
Having to
didn't
learn
come
from
into,
scratch. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't come into I've always had the gifts of seeing. I've always been a seer, and I recall my first encounter with the spirit realm when I was 9 years old, and I was told that I was crazy. Yeah, so I kept it quiet a lot. I didn't reveal really my gifts until I was 40 years old. I
That's
didn't
all
tell
it takes is one dumbass adult to like shut a young person down. Like I really hate that.
Well,
I
that
don't like
comes
that.
again. That comes again. That was beaten out of our ancestors. They couldn't show their gifts. They couldn't show if they saw things. They couldn't show their strength. It was beaten, raped, tortured out of them. So that went throughout, family. Because I'm talking to my cousins now. All of them, a majority of the females, they have either dreamers or they can see, and just having, now that I'm open about my gifts, I'm hearing this one saying, oh yeah, we always could do that. Yeah, we could do
Wow.
that. Yeah,
And you
so
thought you was the only one, but
yeah, yeah,
Good
my son
morning.
most of our people, when you come to find out, most black women, each black woman has some sort of a gift in my experience, so they just have to know it and cultivate it.
they already know it exists. It's such a stigma
It's
on
religion.
being different. Yeah, religion,
That
exactly,
too.
exactly. And
I
that's
grew
the
up as a
culture.
Jehovah's
Yes.
Witness, and imagine a Caribbean Jehovah's Witness family. Like, make it make sense.
And
Make it
Jehovah's
make sense. That's all I
I
got.
could do like a whole comedy skit on that, like Dave Chappelle.
Like, I'm getting a headache thinking about it. But in all reality, my dad side, it was like forbidden. And then my mom, had like Southern Baptist, strict Puerto Rican family. But then I found out that later on, mediumship, my great grandfather was like all of the Claires, used to perform abortions for like politicians on the low, like herbalist, his wife was a nurse, like they did a lot of stuff, and I'm like, why did you guys try to hide all of this stuff from us? And they're like, religion, at the end of the day. I'm a seer, I'm clairvoyant, I have amazing dreams, like my dreams reveal more to me than people. Do you know what I mean? Like it's probably one of the most incredible
Yes.
things. And to be honest, I was
Yes,
huge
it is.
Rasta vibes. Like before, I lived that life and full vegan lifestyle, clear mind, and I was used to smoke weed a lot, but as soon as I stopped, my dreams hit me like crazy. Like the substance abuse, alcoholism, once you drop all of that stuff, the way things come to you so naturally, it
Yeah.
floods you to a place where you're like, okay, was this always here? People don't really understand what these substances really do for you, to you, and I'm not saying that it's all wrong or anything like that, to each its own. But at the same time, as soon as I stopped, my dreams were so much more vivid. I'm able to see, think clearer than I have ever before. And as I continue to build up myself spiritually, my thoughts and my dreams become even more heightened. My powers become a little bit more heightened. I'm just going to always call them spiritual gifts and powers, because a lot of people don't, like we said, a lot of people don't even realize that they exist, nor do they know how to continue to use them. A lot of people don't even know how to use their intuition, let
Right.
alone have a clear dream, for all that matters. So there are ways that you can heighten your intuition, and for me lately I have been intentionally like ignoring it, because I'm like, this is getting extreme. Like, it's scaring me now. You know, I know
Oh,
when
yeah.
things are happening outside, I can
The
feel different
cosmic
things.
energy.
It's just too much, you know, sometimes. And I'm like, this is
That
getting really
alone.
eerie. Yeah, it's becoming
Yeah.
really, really,
A
really
lot of
interesting.
people are having, yeah, a lot of people are having ascension symptoms.
Mhm.
Serious, they're ascension symptoms, but they feel like you could be having a mental moment. You know what I'm saying? But if for a person, if you've ever done shadow work, then you know, okay, this is the feeling. You know, it's a
Yeah.
cosmic thing. You know, it's like, I don't know if we realize it. Okay, so time just went forward again. And so it's going to be getting what? Darker earlier?
Later.
No,
Later.
later. It's be dark, getting darker later. So you can probably get more daylight savings time. But also it's like you have to do a lot more grounding, a lot more spiritual baths. I'm up here, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm drinking crystal water. I don't know if you can see the bottle. There's a little
Oh, that's
chamber down
cool.
here.
Mhm.
Can't really see it
Put
because of
your
the
hand behind
background.
it. Put your hand behind it. Yeah.
Oh, this way.
Yeah, you could see it a little bit. Oh, not anymore. It's like a turquoise color or something.
I know, it's weird. It's actually tiger's eye. It's brown.
Oh,
But
okay.
anyways, um, yeah, so that's helped keeping you grounded. But like if you don't know these things and you're just going through it, a lot of people are I give kudos because they're going through a lot. They don't know why, but they're doing it. You know,
And the
if
sun
you know
is
how to eat
hotter.
better and yeah,
Mhm.
and if you know how to eat better and all these different things that can help. But like, say the sun throws out a flare, you know, a X flare, M flare, or whatever, and we get all these charged particles, and so by the time it hits us, we may get in a feeling like we're having an anxiety attack or something like that. Next thing you know, you go run into the doctors. They done gave you a pill, and now
No.
you're on it, and you think you have anxiety, but literally because it's a wave, so it would
Yeah.
seem consistent. You know, like going into the doctor. Well, how has this happened before? Oh, it's been happening for the past 3-4 months. Okay, they start writing down everything. Well, you know, well, would you like to try? We think you're having an acute anxiety attack. Would you like to try, you know, this medication? Well, would it make it
Vicodin.
go away?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, there you go. And now you're off. You're on anxiety medication now. So that's like literally classifying you as a mental illness patient. But you know, a lot of times that happens because you know, if you want, you can have yourself on every darn pill they have out there. You know, all you got to do is accept it, and that now you're on it. So
But people don't even realize about the sun too. Like, I've been paying attention to the sun cycle for the last 2 years, and they just
me
had a
too.
major, major wave, you know, hit from the
Mhm.
sun this last night. Why do you think we have
Today,
all this rain? I think they
yeah,
like, we know that they create weather, but for 17 states to have a major weather storm coincidentally when all this stuff was supposed to hit Earth, it's no longer a coincidence. You know what I mean? They're
right.
intentionally blocking this energy because they know what it's doing for us. I'll never forget, we
Mhm.
got hit with a major, major rainstorm, and the next day it was sunny outside, and I ran outside because I was like paying attention to the sun weather that day. And I'm out there, no exaggeration, the next day I could not move. I was literally in
Mhm.
bed the entire day, nose running, headache, like the major ascension symptoms. Like, people have to pay more attention to the
Mhm.
sun weather and realize when it's actually hitting the earth, especially this summer. Because if you think about it,
Yes.
last year they said that we had the hottest summer on record for the entire world. And just imagine, we're in
Mhm.
the heap of the sun
Mhm.
cycle 11, you know, and now it's going to be even more hotter. What is
Mhm.
that going to do for us as
And we're
people who
having
are
a full eclipse.
that's next month, right? I think too.
Yes, and this eclipse energy is coming. Yeah, on the
Oh,
8th,
thank
I
you for
think.
the reminder.
But yeah, a lot of this acute ascension symptoms actually match what your jab symptoms was. They're the same symptoms.
Exactly.
You would think you have a
Mhm.
flu, but you could have acute radiation symptoms. It's the same
Of
exact
course.
thing. So a lot of our people, so as healers, we got to start talking a lot more about what it is and what it's not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We might help someone who is going through these symptoms or whatever. They think that, but to cover ourselves, we have to say, the best thing to do is get checked out by a physician
I would never
to
say
cover
that.
yourself. You know what I'm saying? On a direct conversation, but say like if we were like now, me, us being on live, we're being watched. We know that. So say someone watches our show, they're having something going on. We're saying, oh, it may be ascension symptoms. Oh, well, I heard it on the show. Just to cover yourself professionally, you always have to say that. But when you're having direct conversations, and you can keep it real. But yes, when it's dealing with mental illness, because the thing is, as we were talking, it came to me, we definitely want to come together and start to help each other, those of us that claim that we are out of it or managing it to a certain level. We need to come together with others more, because it's not in their best interest to run that way. You know what I'm saying? We feel like, to me, that's the trap. We got to do everything that we can do before they get sent to the trap. You know what I'm saying?
The medication is the trap. Got
A
it.
lot of people are going to deny what you say and go running there anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Naturally.
It's a
I mean,
lot.
you got to
But
remember a lot of people don't want to awaken to reality. A lot of we could
that
just
too.
equate it down to movies and, the Matrix. And a lot of people don't want to awaken to what is
Mm-hmm.
truly genuinely happening. People are okay being blind. And we know that sheep in the goat
Mm-hmm.
mentality. A lot of people rather follow
It
than to
feels safe
lead
for
or to
them.
go to the other way. And again, that's perfectly fine, because if that's how you're gonna be, then we don't need you. Simple. We are trying to ascend, not
Right.
be pulled back. If you cannot contribute, then
That's
what are you
right.
here for? Everybody has to be able to
That's
do
right.
something to elevate us collectively. And everybody can't
Mm-hmm.
go, we always take bits and pieces from the Bible, and in that word it says 1/3 of people are going to come. And right now it may seem like a lot, but in reality, if there's an apocalypse or whatever it is that is going to be coming, a lot of people are going to
Mm-hmm.
die off anyway. So we don't even have to really do much work. It's going to be a
Right.
third of whoever's left. So that number may be vast in our mind
People are
right
going to
now.
come.
They're going to
That's
do, and
right.
then we know a lot of people willingly gave in themselves with the jab. So that
Mm-hmm.
was already a third of people gone.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people that are giving the notion, yeah, they're having people that are giving the notion that, those that got the jab, there's a way to get rid of what they put in you. I
There's
don't
this
I don't agree
idiot
with
on
that.
social media that
People are
keeps telling
being told,
people that.
I
It's
mean,
driving me
there
crazy.
is a way, but it's a lot of work. It's not an easy process. You know what I'm
How?
saying?
It's in your DNA. How can you remove something from your DNA cord?
Yeah, it does change it. That's the whole thing. And we have had, there's other things that will change it, but if it's already altered, what are you changing it to? You can't change it back. I don't know.
Yeah, you have some people saying that they can take something or to detoxify their bodies from the jab,
Mhm.
but I don't see how
Hmm.
that's possible.
Right. Completely. It may get some heavy metals and things out, but in that sense, that remains to be proven.
We don't know what
But
these companies came together to put inside of it. Still, it's
mhm.
all literally by design. You know, we say
It
that.
takes years to find out as things pop up, like Camp Lagoon. You remember that? Everyone knows that commercial, Camp
Yeah,
Lagoon. All of the military people from the past 30 years that have gone there and received some sort of contamination in the water.
right.
And then they named every kind of cancer there was that people could have got. So that was some serious contamination. They were just using that as a toxic waste dump. And then they were sending their troops there over 30 years. Crazy, man. Then no one's talking about it. Everyone's seeing that commercial, but a
Yeah, I see.
documentary needs to be done on that because that was horrific work that the government did to its own people. Again, once again,
Nothing new. Nothing new there.
that was crazy. And then all they have to do is come together after they made all the zillions or billions or whatever they have. They come together and do a class action lawsuit and piece everybody off, after they've gotten all they could get. So just like the
People always
perm
think that
thing,
money can help you. If
right?
you're in the midst of dying, how can money help you? What does that do for you?
Yeah, they can't take it back after they've done all that damage. It's
And you can't
crazy.
take it with you into another realm. So we're still asking the same question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
So all we can
literally,
do is,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm like jet lagged really bad still, and I'm literally ready to take a nap.
Oh, I hear
So
you.
yeah, I'm like, I
Every
don't want
time
to
I sit
leave.
still for more than 10 minutes, I'm ready to take a nap.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I feel a good sleep coming on. Like, let me tell the
Yes,
ladies
I hear
before I
that.
leave.
But
But
that's you'll have a good sleep for sure. But
yeah,
before we end the show, I decided that, so I wrote a couple of books, and let me take this background down so we can see. Where am I? There we go. Okay. So I wrote a couple of books since 2014, but just recently I wrote an affirmation book, and it's called Whispers of Divinity, A Tapestry of Personal Power. And I do 57 poems of affirmation. They're short, the affirmations, so they're no more than 3 sentences, but they're affirmations of motivation to help someone that might be having mental challenges. And also just to introduce people to their divinity. I wrote a few dialogues at the end to talk about how I take control of my own personal power since I was a 16-year-old girl. But this is the paperback, and it's available on Amazon. And I also have the hardcover of it. Of course, the hardcover is a couple bucks more, but it's a keeper, And even if you have a friend or somebody you want to inspire, you can share that way. But now my crystals and gems book, this is everything you need to know about crystals and gems, do's and don'ts. And what's tomorrow? Monday. Starting Wednesday, I'm going to have this free on Amazon. You just pay the shipping, but I might do it for the whole Women's Month, because crystals and gems, I don't know, ladies, it's my life. Now that I'm introduced to them, I cannot live without my crystals and gems. I have crystals and gems for everything that I do. If I'm going out to a situation, I got a certain crystal. Just if I'm trying to manifest and get my pockets right, I got certain crystals. If I'm trying to detox on the inside and get some of this crystal energy, we got crystals that you can use in water that you can drink. So crystals, I have incorporated crystals in my baths and in all different kind of great things that benefits women and men. But for this, the rest of this month, I think I'm going to do free. But as of Wednesday, it will be free on Amazon for a little bit. And yes, so all you have to do is search, because I was in different names. I have a lot of different names. I'm Serket, Offset, in Ra every day. But for a time when I was going through my healing in Reiki, I was just Offset. But now it's time to put the Serket back. And yeah, so we got that for the people. And we are located in the Baltimore area. And myself and Sister Yvette are Reiki masters. I'm not sure if you are Queen Goddess. I know you travel a lot. But
Yeah.
I would like to offer my email address, because Reiki does not have to be, you don't have to be there in person for Reiki. We have learned how to do the distance Reiki process, and we're very good at it. So I would like to offer our services. Sister Yvette has her process and I have my process. So my email address is houseoftanya23@gmail.com. And Sister Yvette, if you'd like to share an email address or
My
some
email
sort of a
address.
contact.
Okay. My email address is YvetteWilliams411@yahoo.com. I have a website called Life's Journey Holistic Services.com. Just send me a text 443-271-2407. Then just text Reiki, please.
Absolutely. Because we want you to feel free, to contact us and get this party started. That is the way. That is the way.
And may I add, I'd like to add that during my Reiki sessions, I am fed information quite often because I do a scanning, and during your Reiki sessions, I get messages. I usually write them down while I'm scanning you, and I write them down and we go over what spirit has to reveal to you, or you haven't spoke about some things that you're dealing with, and I'm giving answers to your questions. So
Yeah.
I do that as well.
Powerful.
Absolutely.
I love Reiki.
So,
So whoever has never tried, just to be on the opposite end of the Reiki masters here present, if you've never tried it, I definitely recommend it. It helped me heal tremendously. It helped me get over a traumatic breakup that I had experienced 6 years ago. And there was a lot of information that was suppressed, and doing Reiki allowed me to release it, to the point during my Reiki, I envisioned like a safe in the middle of a river. And when we opened up the safe, all of the words and emotions and feelings that I had locked up, I physically saw releasing. So it was just a powerful, powerful energy. Once you are complete or aligned with your Reiki practitioner, it's irreplaceable. You just have to be open to releasing.
absolutely. Ashe. Yes, that is the power of Reiki. The first time I tried a Reiki session, I said, no, I have to learn how to do this. And actually, we also, myself and Sister Yvette, we can certify others in Reiki sessions. And coming up sometime this summer, we plan on doing a certification. We have level 1, 2, and 3, to anyone that is really interested. And it is a commitment, you have to be really interested, and yes, we're going to be doing that soon, because it's good to know how to do it as well. But it's nothing like getting a Reiki session done, even if you're a Reiki master, because it's all about clearing up blocked energy. And that can happen normally. It's just not everyone it's not just for everyone that's going through something. Reiki is actually for people that have medical ailments,
Stress.
movements, yeah, stress, arthritis, pretty much any type of ailment that would cause energy blockages.
Now, I
Yeah,
do
and
want to make
that
a correction.
go ahead.
I can't. I'm a Reiki master. I'm not a master teacher. So
Oh,
I
okay.
do. Yeah, I'm not a master, but my friend is a master teacher. He can certify you, but
Oh,
um
okay.
I can send you to my Reiki master teacher who certifies and gives you. She certifies Reiki 1, 2, and
2
3.
and 3. Okay.
Yeah. Also, if you want to know how to intentively play the sound bowls, I also have
Hmm.
um, connection with those who can certify you in that as well. But
Yes.
I can teach CPR, first aid, and AED. I do that training.
Hmm.
I also am a life coach, and I also direct my energy to healing the inner you, the inner child.
Yes. That's great. But usually, like, until they get a hold of Reiki, because right now it's a free, um
Mm-hmm.
permissions are, free as far as instructing and whatnot. We're not hooked up into the licensing requirements and all that stuff. So it's usually people that have harnessed each part, you've mastered each part. That's what I mean by you can certify others. Because really, once you become a master, you can certify others. Now, when they say that there's a course to certify others, that person has created that course. That's just a Reiki master who created their own course. You know what I'm saying? Until that thing gets regulated, which I hope it doesn't, but in certain areas, because like they're trying to get Reiki people into surgery rooms and whatnot. Um, and it goes by the doctor, whether, and it goes by the patient's religion and all this different stuff, but they're trying to offer Reiki in hospitals and surgery situations and whatnot. So, but it's until it gets regulated, anybody that has harnessed the process of Reiki can be an instructor. You just got to create your own program and your certificates and whatnot. And
Well, they have different levels. I'm certified under the Feng Shui
okay.
Reiki, where I have been um, initiated by
Hmm.
having the attunement. So
Right, the atonement. Yeah.
the different symbols are tapped
Hmm.
in, and so those type of things, you have to be registered under the Feng Shui as a master teacher. So I'm just
Hmm.
under a Reiki
Oh, okay.
practitioner. Yeah.
There's a lot of different kinds I'm noticing now. I have the Ahara Reiki, which is Egyptian Kemetic based. It's a lot more freer, but they try to make it seem like it was created in Japan, or what is it, China, or it's like kind of giving that connotation. But I'm a hotepper, so I went right into Egypt and found out that they created it. All those different postures that we're seeing, when they're in the stance and all of that, and all of those different statues and paintings, that's Reiki that they're doing. So I went through that, initiation. So there's different ones. I have there's a different Japanese one also. When I first started, I did the certification through there. But once you like connect spiritually, you can
Once
kind
you
of
take off all the
create.
titles, it's laying hands and
Yeah.
giving the energy
Some of the
to.
gurus are like sticklers and all that, but like
I mean,
I'm a
I
African
move
mama
into,
Reiki
yeah, I go
master.
into titles when people, people who use titles as, are you licensed to do this type stuff?
Right, this,
Because
that,
you do
that, and
have
the
that
other.
type of ignorance out there, because I was asked, am I certified? And I said, definitely. I'm certified on level 1, 2, and 3. So I'm
Anyway,
a
yeah, you
Reiki
could do
master.
that online, but you got to
I've
be able to
encountered,
perform it.
yeah, I've
Yes.
ran into people who are ignorant to the gifts. They are,
Right. That's what I'm
they
talking
only
about.
know what's on black and white and what it
Right.
says. So I've
You're
had the
doing
gifts
Reiki,
all
but you're
along.
using your gifts. That's right. You're
Absolutely.
using your oracle gifts and all
Hmm.
of that. They're the ones that came along and put this title on it. But
Yeah.
our people created Reiki, and we've been laying hands on people, and you don't even have to touch them. Sometimes you have
Yeah.
that space where you can transfer that heat. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it is your style, your own style of it. But yeah, we definitely offer those services, and anyone out there contact us. And like I said, you could be in Africa somewhere, you could be in any state. It's mind detect mind. And so distance Reiki has really intrigued me. When I found out that it actually worked, it just, it blew my mind. But I use it a lot, and I think I developed my skills a lot more because I'm a mother and my children were away from me. I had one in Connecticut, one over here, and one over there. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, you can't get your hands on them, but you can send them healing vibes of protection. Like, I hope they're okay or whatever. And then you learn to picture them and then cover them in your protection and whatnot. And so I'm a seer also, and I do oracle, and I began to develop, as a mom, when you can't get to your children, you can get to them. So I always tell my family that's all away from me. Y'all don't gotta let me know what's going on. Like, what's the check-in? I'm the person that does the check-in. How you doing? You all right? This and that. No one ever calls me to check on me to see if I'm all right. I'm just expected to be all right. That's my stance or whatever. And being that I accept it, and so I have to make sure that I'm all right. So I gotta have my lifestyle so I can be all right. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my kids worrying about me. So I don't do certain things. I don't drink. I do smoke a little, but that's just the curb. I know I have a little anxious thing. And so that's what I like to do, and I do it. But it doesn't, stop my gifts at all. And anything that hinders you from your gifts, that's when you should, cease to do it. But yeah, in a lot of different cultures, there's a lot of different ways. You have ayahuasca, you have people that are, they can tell you all your visions after they've had a mushroom. You know what I'm saying? They could give you your reading after they've had a mushroom and whatnot. It's just like, give me the mushroom. I have my own reading. But anyways, to close off, we all have our spiritual gifts, and we need to develop them. Sometimes not developing them can lead us to mental illness. But the topic was mental illness in the Black community. And so as we close, I'll just say that I've been enlightened just by having this discussion on practical ways. When we leave this discussion, we're going to go and implement, what we know in our lifestyle. So I'm encouraged to pay more attention to the fact that people are going through a lot mentally, because I'm one that sometimes I'm a little short tempered because I feel like I'm okay mentally, and sometimes we expect others to be, and we just have to deal with each other where we are, because sometimes we can run people away, and it's not exactly what we want to do all the time. So I've been enlightened on a lot of ways to um, just be aware that people are going through a lot. And I'll just
Yes.
be working with how I deal with them on that level, to continue to work in love, because it's a lot that can get you during the day, you got so much coming at you. You could kind of be short, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just the awareness of how we treat each other, and to know when, hey, are you going through something? Is everything okay? All right, cool. We say we love each other, but how do we show it?
Right.
You know, we talk about levels of mental illness. We all have something that we're dealing with. It's just the way, you know, being more in tune with your spirit self. You can process a lot of things. There are those of us that can go through life without having therapy and whatnot, but we still have to have our own healing mechanisms and ways to release stress,
Yeah.
tension, anger, especially the anger. You know,
The
I
healing,
have,
the healing work starts within anyway. You can't be expected to go out there and extend yourself if you're not healed within.
right.
And it's not an overnight fix. It
That's right.
sometimes it takes years to peel off the layers.
Mm-hmm. For sure. You got to take that time, and
Hmm.
it is being with yourself. Sometimes being with yourself, you forced to deal with yourself, and those things just come up in your spirit, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, so it's deep,
Yeah.
definitely. Any closing remarks?
No, I thank you for including me in another podcast yet again. And all
Awesome.
information is utilized to be that healing force in the community. And thank you for opening up this show to be that tool, to be that healing agent in the community and offer ideas and perspectives on each one on how we can be that in the community.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you for, being consistent and coming through and having these discussions, you know, because you feel that they're important and they need to be discussed. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I thank you for your presence and everyone that came out tonight. We had Sister Goddess that came on, and we had Brother Rahim. I don't know if he can hear me. Are you there? Is his mic on, muted? I don't know. He must be busy.
Yeah.
But we are definitely getting ready to close, and we grace everyone that came on tonight. And
Yes, ma'am.
I'm starving. I haven't eaten anything today. I feel it. I feel it like
To eat. Okay.
that feeling when you're like, okay, now I gotta go. Yes, everyone have a peaceful night and enjoy the rest of your week. We have tomorrow is Monday. So we have blessings on everyone's week. I hope everything goes smoothly for everyone. And we'll be back on Sunday.
Sunday is
Peace and
my
love.
birthday.
Oh wow. So you're probably gonna be spending your
I'll let
time thing.
yeah,
You'll have the week off.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Okay. Awesome. And you'll let me know. Great. And if so, we will have the birthday edition. Absolutely. Peace and love, Queen Mother Earth. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace and
All
love to
right.
you.
Peace. Thank
Okay.
you.